Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. I like to travel, learn, and tell stories. And today I want to talk about a motto, a phrase that I came across one day, and it kind of stuck with me in that I was living it already, even though I didn't have a phrase on hand that perfectly crystallized how I was living my life. And it is vote with your feet, which may be traced back to Roman times, was certainly popularized by Lenin as a way of motivating communists. Is an interesting phrase because it fits into any situation. It became popular in the 1960s civil rights movement in the States. And vote with your feet, I like how visceral it is, how down to earth, how feet on the ground this phrase is. Because it's not telling you to believe, it's telling you to make a difference through your actions. And, interestingly, through your negative actions. Not negative as in bad, but as in the absence of doing something, or the restraint from doing something. It can also just mean vote with your feet. Move to the place you want to live. Move to a better life. And for me, obviously, that was moving to China and starting to teach English and learning about the world. And then continuing to live abroad after I had made enough money to travel indefinitely or live the rest of my life the way I wanted to. I still voted with my feet because whenever I went back to the States, it wasn't a life I wanted to live. I loved going to concerts again, and the national parks are nice, but the track mentality, the treadmill mentality of the United States culture is always there. When you go to a city, everyone's like, yeah, this is what you do in Detroit. You live life in an office, and then you go back to your house that you save up for 15 years, and then you have kids, or, yeah, this is the factory you work in. You work in this factory, and they'll pay your benefits, and no, you become a doctor. No, you can't work with the patients you want, and you can't pursue the kind of medicine you like, but they do pay you a lot of money to fit into the medical system that exploits and takes advantage of people. There are so many parts of American culture, like the corrupt and awful medical care system and the absurdly exploitative education system, the demand of allegiance, the cultural insistence in the lie of American exceptionalism, especially at this point. By 2025, America has squandered any head start it had ahead of other countries. U.S. Americans have been stripped of most of their civil rights. We don't have a free press. Dollar bills have as much political, often more political influence than actual U.S. citizens. Inanimate objects. The U.S. has fallen completely behind in the technologies of the future. In barely a few months, Trump has managed to set back the U.S. scientific community by a decade, maybe decades. There's going to be a whole generation of scientists that are going to develop innovations and careers, lives in other countries, because they're not allowed to practice science in the United States. I didn't like these problems that the United States had 15 years ago, or 13, whatever, 20 years ago, when George W. Bush was in charge. He raised carcinogenic levels in drinking water. He threw away American lives for no reason in meaningless wars that denigrated the country. So I vote with my feet. I don't go back to the United States just because I was born there. I don't go back to the United States even though it has my native language and any number of career paths that I have to compromise my self-worth and integrity for. I vote with my feet. I chose to leave the lifestyle I didn't approve of and participate in the life I did approve of and want to explore. Initially, I wanted to backpack for a few months, and I backpacked for 6 months. Then I kept backpacking because it felt right. I was really voting with my feet on how my life should be lived. When my friend asked me to open a school with her, I said, yeah, that is what I want to do next in my life, because I'd never started a business before. So I voted with my feet. I moved back to China for a couple of years, and I started that business with her. So I voted with my feet to create a life for myself that I agreed with, that made sense, that wasn't always easy, but was as stress-free as I could make it, and was as rewarding as I knew how to make it. So living in China, coming across that advertisement for being an English teacher in Beijing when I was looking for a Nintendo 64 controller, taking advantage of that opportunity, I was voting with my feet. I knew I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing in the United States. I didn't like how the US culture insists Americans live in debt, struggling to survive, kicking down others just so I can make it to the level of treading water. And so when I saw that there was a way out, I voted with my feet. And when I did that, when I moved abroad, I stopped paying taxes, because if you're abroad 330 days out of the year, you don't pay earned income tax. So I really felt like I was voting with my feet because I was physically in a different place. I left the situation I didn't like, and I stopped contributing my tax dollars to that system for a decade. I have a decade of personal gratification and integrity that I can look fondly upon. I'm very glad I did that. And sometimes things were difficult, but not as difficult as it would have been growing up hopeless in the United States. Looking forward to the day long after my body and values had broken down, the capitalist lords allowed me to survive without struggling as long as I promised to take advantage of everybody else around me. No, I don't want to do that, so I vote with my feet, and I still do. I'm living abroad right now, because literally other than going to live music, I cannot see the point of living in the US right now. It just doesn't make any sense, and I do not want to pay into a system run by a president who actively harms US Americans, strips away their civil rights, rapes one of them at least, according to the judge and jury in the Jean Carroll trial. So no, I'm not going to stand in that area. I'm going to vote with my feet and move on. Like, yeah, Baskin-Robbins has 32 flavors, and the US manufactures good sportswear. But also, US American taxes fund drone strikes on civilians. And the US has the highest prison population in the world, that private parties are earning money from the exploitation of that labor. And US citizens don't even have autonomy over their own bodies. So personally, I've decided against voting for that system by participating in it or contributing to it. I am voting with my feet. I'm living away. I'm paying as few taxes as possible by renting out studios as a self-employed person, spending money so that I don't have to give taxes to an administration and, frankly, a culture that I disagree with. I don't want to exploit others, and I don't want to pay into the system that exploits others. Now, if you have no choice but to live in the system, if you're living in the US right now and you feel like you are trapped and can't move, I mean, first of all, listen to the other podcasts. You probably have a way out if you're a native or fluent English speaker. But if you don't feel bad about being trapped in a situation. That's what the US does. It holds its citizens hostage until it has extracted all the value from you that they can, at which point you are discarded and expelled from that system. If you feel trapped, but you're a fluent speaker of English, hit me up. Send me a message. I will help you get out of there into a school, and you'll start saving money, and you don't have to participate in a system where you either kill or die. You either rip the value away from someone else and put 1% of it in your pocket and give the rest to the CEO of the company that you don't even know which company actually owns the store you work at. Or you live honorably and perish because you're not allowed to make that decision in many situations in the US. You are allowed to use an exploitative system to siphon money out of people who don't have any free money. Or you can shake a cup for change on the street. Or, if you're a native English speaker, you can go move to another country and teach English and live how you want to live. Or you can learn how to code. Or you can start writing books. You only need $500 a month to live abroad. And that's what I was doing. I was living on less than $500 a month for years. But even though I couldn't buy all the food I wanted, or I couldn't live in the nicest houses every time I traveled to a new country, I knew I needed to take a break from teaching, so I did that. And I also knew that I didn't want to live in the United States. And living abroad on $200 a month to maybe $400 a month maximum for a couple years was a lot of fun and very self-affirming. It was also a very defining experience because I realized that I was fine living on a few $100s a month. I could still eat great food pretty much every day. I could sleep more comfortably than ever. I love hammock camping. I had voted with my feet to not be part of a situation and a culture I disagreed with. And it benefited my sense of self-worth and decency immeasurably. And that was a permanent change. I still carry those principles around with me. And one day I was reading an article. I don't even know what it was. Maybe it was a Reddit post or a Lemmy post or something. And I read the phrase, vote with your feet, and it clicked. And I was like, that's what I'm doing. I'm not participating in the systems I fundamentally disagree with in principle. I am voting with my feet, ideologically, and I am physically stepping away from a system I do not agree with or want to participate in, and I am stepping toward a system I do want to participate in and contribute to. Teaching, traveling abroad, sharing experiences with people, helping people when I can, that's the system I want to be a part of. And mentally relocating to a lifestyle I appreciate, a lifestyle that I can tolerate living within, a lifestyle where I don't have to tear down other people so that I can thrive. I think for me, since I know what I didn't want, after having gone through the US American educational system and some of its corporate reality for a few years, I was willing to try pretty much any alternative to try to find something I did want, because I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew that I didn't want to participate in an exploitative system. And if you're feeling the same way, and you can make $500 a month, I suggest you do the same thing, because take what you have and go to the life that fulfills you. Leave the life that drains you behind. Picking up and going, that is by far the most important consideration, the most important action you can take. Anything else is like planning which vegetables you're going to plant in your home garden while you're living behind the walls of a POW camp. It's good to have dreams to sustain hope or to calm the mind, but it's not exactly an active remedial step. And that remedial step is closer than you think. Because it's very hard to imagine the world being so inexpensive, the cost of living being so inexpensive abroad for an American compared to what they grew up with. Imagine if you're paying $250 per month for an air-conditioned room with Wi-Fi, and you have another $250 to spend on all the food you want. And that's if you can only scrape together $500 USD per month. If you can make $1,000 per month, because of that cost of living, that low cost of living, you're able to pursue the artistic or business endeavors or any recreational endeavor, start a family, anything you want to do. It's a lot easier to do once you don't have to worry about the basic cost of living throttling you, like it does for most people in the US. After having gone through the US American educational system and some of its corporate reality for a few years, thinking of how you would like to not participate in the system you're participating in is good. It's, like I said, hopeful, but it's not an active step. Not participating in the system is voting with your feet. Not exploiting others is an active step. Taking that step for me led me to financial freedom in a matter of weeks. I was instantly financially solvent. And very soon I had more savings than I had ever had in my life. And it was not about how much I was making, it was about how much I was saving because I had voted with my feet. I decided not to live in a system that I could not comfortably live in, when there were another 200 systems to choose from that were begging me to speak my native language in them. And once I wasn't constantly burdened by exorbitantly expensive basic survival needs living in the United States, I could reckon with my own mind a lot more clearly, and I could further vote with my feet. After I had that school for 2 years that I started with my friend, I was like, okay, it's the second I should leave again. It's time to go. My values told me how I should be living, and because it worked the first time, I am still listening, and I'm moving around and doing what I think is right. I'm living the way I want to live and living the way I think is right for me. And it doesn't have to be the way that is right for you, but you should try to figure out if you are living the life you are living because you want to be there, or if you're living the life you're living because you were born into it, or you're already there, so you're just continuing it. And you might be trapped. It might not be as easy for you. Don't let me tell you that you can do anything, because some people are not that lucky or privileged. They don't have the ability to move on like a lot of other people do. But you can always talk to me, and I will talk to you back and try to help, offer a suggestion if it seems prudent. But what's most important is that you figure out if the life you're living is a product of your own volition, or if it's a situation you are inside of, you are surviving inside of. Because once you figure that out, then you can vote with your feet. All you have to do is figure out if you want to be there or not. If you do, then you vote with your feet and you thrive in that position. But if you are participating in a system that you do not want to be participating in, once you know that, that's the key to unlock your feet, to allow you to vote with your feet and move on to something else. It's good to quit something that is bad for you. If you were trapped in a cage, if someone was holding you against your will, and one day they forgot to lock the cage and you could escape, don't stay in the cage because you've been in the cage for so long. And that mentality certainly sinks into people. But that is an opportunity. You can vote with your feet, leave the cage, and get out of there. I hope you come to know yourself, and I hope that you vote with your feet. And you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with any country or any system or anything, but agree with yourself. Know yourself and vote with your feet. Make sure your actions or your restraint is an active decision. You are choosing to participate, or you are choosing not to participate. Acting or not acting are equally powerful decisions. You can choose to stay in that cage, and that determines your life. You can choose to leave that cage, and that determines your life. I know this sounds pretty serious, but I want the best for all of you and everyone. I want everybody to vote with their feet. I want everybody to know themselves so well that the decisions they make can materially affect the enjoyment of their lives. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're having a great life, and I hope to talk to you soon. I mean, I will talk to you soon, but if you want to talk to me, you can get me at bitofarambler@gmail.com or all the socials. Thank you for listening.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.